Welcome back to the Sam Acho podcast featuring Clif Marshall. And for our second, maybe third episode, Clif, we have a special guest. I'd like you to do the introduction for our guest.
Well, thank you, Sam. You know, this podcast is all about talking faith, family, finance, and football. However, today we're not talking football. We're talking basketball. We're talking hoops. And I am so thankful that we have a great friend of mine on the show today, Cody Zeller. Cody and I met when I was the strength and conditioning coach for the Indiana Hoosiers men's basketball team. And again, we've been friends ever since. Cody was in 2011, Mr. Basketball in the state of Indiana, right? And he was also a McDonald's All-American that year. And he was one of the most heralded recruits to ever commit to the Indiana Hoosiers basketball program. He went on to have a stellar career there, became an All-American, and was the fourth overall draft pick to the Charlotte Hornets in the NBA draft. And actually, if you're watching the show, it's pretty cool because you can see Cody right over my shoulder here, a signed photo that he gave me a couple years back. And on the other shoulder, you can see Sam Acho in his Chicago Bears days as an NFL football player. So, Cody, thank you so much for being here today.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on. I have so much respect for you, Cliff, and I'm fine talking football. It's a football podcast. We're on big football. I remember watching Sam play growing up and stuff. So anyway, yeah, we can talk. I grew up watching Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison, big Colts fan, and man, I love watching college football, college game day, my Saturdays watching college football. So we can talk basketball, I guess, but I enjoy being on the football podcast.
So real quick. So, because I don't know too many 7-footers that love football, love talking football. What is it about football, Cody, that you love?
Yeah, I think I got too tall to play football. So I think that's why I, got pushed a little more towards basketball. But man, I love the atmospheres too. Like to be able to go to a game in person is so much fun. So yeah, just sports in general, just the competition brings out the best in people. There's drama both ways. There's so many storylines. So obviously my Indiana Hoosiers had a great year this year. Nor we haven't had a whole lot to cheer for when it comes to college football. So I kind of cheer for a little bit everyone. My brother went to Notre Dame, so I used to go visit him on football weekends and go to Notre Dame football games when he was there. But anyway, my Hoosiers had a good year.
Cody, you brought up your brother, and actually, you had two brothers and both played in the NBA, which is pretty cool. I mean, your mom and dad have to be, very proud of the fact that they had three sons play high major basketball and then obviously make it to the NBA. But it's pretty unique because Sam also had a brother that played college football and made it to the NFL. So can you talk a little bit about just your upbringing and how competitive that was to have two other brothers in the house that were so highly talented?
I'm the youngest, yeah. So I just know I got my butt kicked a lot growing up, with whether it's basketball or anything. We made everything in competition. Pizza eating contests, we made everything in competition. Board games, everything else. So I think more than anything, I just learned like competitiveness. And then also I think on the court, I learned a little bit of, I can never score inside. My Tyler is 3 years older, Luke is 6 years older. So there was no chance I had to score inside. So I had to be able to hand the ball a little bit, develop a little bit of a shot. So yeah. And then I think even just, they were great mentors for me growing up, whether it's, making my college decision or, making the jump from college into the NBA, whatever it was. I was kind of able to watch them go through it first. And I watched and also just to be able to pick up the phone and call either one of them, whether it's, trying to make my college decision or even now into life stuff, married godly men. So I kind of lean on them, so anyway, I'm very blessed to have two older brothers that I really look up to.
Well, I think, thinking of you and your brothers, obviously you had one go to North Carolina, play for, the Tar Heels. You had another go to Notre Dame, play for the Fighting Irish. And then obviously you went to Indiana. My question is, like, during that recruiting process, was there ever a thought of you guys all going to the same school, or you following in your brother's footsteps, so to speak, and ultimately, how did you land upon the Indiana Hoosiers?
Yeah, we each had a lot different recruiting journey just because of how the landscape looked when we were being recruited. Because when Luke was being recruited, my oldest brother, Indiana was going through a little bit of change. And then when Tyler was there, it was the Calvin Sampson days, so they were under probation and the whole deal. And so I don't know if both of them would have gone to Indiana if things had been different. And they both had great experiences at Notre Dame and in North Carolina. And even for me, I narrowed it down. My final three was Indiana, Butler, and North Carolina. And I would have, like I said, we're 3 years apart, Tyler and I. So we would have had the chance to play together for 1 year. But I didn't even know, like they had my brother, they had John Henson, who was an NBA player. They had the Ware twins, who were highly ranked. And then they had James Michael McAdoo, who was ranked higher than me in my class. So they were kind of like, we're kind of set on big guys, like they offered me a scholarship and the whole deal, but they didn't really have a lot of playing time for me, early on. And then Butler was Brad Stevens and Gordon Hayward, and they'd just been to 2 national championships, and that's in Indianapolis, a couple hours away. So I think the kicker for not to go to Butler was they're still in the Horizon League, and I wanted to play on a bigger stage. So anyway, so it ended up that we each had our own journeys, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Indiana. But I was so glad to, kind of stay at home, only an hour from home, and I grew up watching the Hoosiers, and be able to play at home was a dream come true.
Cody, you talked about the relationship with your brothers in basketball, and you dipped into this piece of, man, I've leaned on them for life advice. What life advice specifically have you leaned on your brothers for most recently?
Yeah, I think just having like a best friend that I can call at any time, whether it's celebrating the highs and lows of life, it's just having someone that you can lean on, whether it is needing advice or just to be able to call and celebrate the little things in life, the highs and lows of the day. So, Luke and I probably talk maybe every other day. Tyler and I maybe talk once a week. But even just, like I said, just having a close friend, even though we don't see each other in person, just because we're all so spread out now. But just to be able to have someone like that to be able to call is pretty comforting.
Cody, a question that I have, part of this podcast is about our guests showing or sharing some adversity that they went throughout their playing career or even their life. And, obviously, playing 10 years in the NBA and then obviously in college and through high school, do you care to share what was probably one of the most painful moments that you went through as an athlete? And when I talk about pain, I'm talking about pain that has been used for your purpose. And maybe how you could share that with our listeners today and what you learned from that.
I'll give a couple of ends. I got a lot of, I feel like you learn from your mistakes, you learn from your failures. I think we can get into a whole nother debate on young people these days. Aren't taught to fail, aren't taught to lose. There's a lot of lessons you can learn from, like you said, the adversity that comes in life. But I think each one makes it stronger. I've had 10 surgeries in 11 years. So 2 on my left knee, 1 on my right knee, both my shoulders. I got plates and screws in both my hands, and 3 on my nose, 3 nose surgeries on my nose. So I think obviously that's like adversity each time that basketball is taken away, and especially when the stress. It's not just the physical side, but the mental side of like, how is this going to affect my career? Am I going to be able to return to the level I was at before? So I tried to, unfortunately, I got good at like that mentality part of it of like, okay, attack the rehab hard. Try to pour into my teammates as much as I could from the bench, stuff like that. So I think on the court, that's been one piece of adversity that I've learned a lot from. I think I think an even bigger one for me for life in general was really my first. So I got drafted when I was 20. I stayed 2 years in Indiana, and then I got drafted to Charlotte. And I was a 20-year-old kid and moved to Charlotte where I didn't know anyone. And those first couple of years were hard for me because it was on the court and off the court. Because on the court, like you're playing against grown men every night in the NBA. It was a big jump going from college to the NBA. And I was playing, but it was just, I'd play a few minutes here or there. I was in the rotation, but I was getting my butt kicked every night. And, just the matchups, I was thinking back, I had a 5-day stretch where I guarded Chris Bosh, Dirk Nowitzki, Tim Duncan, and then back at home, David West. Was, a big. So that was 4 games in 5 nights, and that was like my rookie year, and that's so much different than playing some nobody non-conference game in Indiana. Like there was a handful of games that you'd be able to get up for, like the big match of Purdue or Kentucky or whoever else that you'd be able to get up for. And then you'd have plenty of games that you show up just to win by 30, So I think that was a big lesson for me. But also off the court, it was really my first time moving away from home because I was, like I said, I went to school an hour from home. So my parents were at every game, and I could get home if I needed to. I had community there. But really, when I went to Charlotte, I didn't have any community. So I wanted to surround myself with community and godly men, and fortunately, God provided that, and I prayed for God to provide, mentors for me and community, and it took a little while, like it does, to network and build a community, but it happened, and to look back now, that was a huge growing part in my life. It was uncomfortable because I didn't know anyone. Things weren't going well on the court or off the court, but I look back now, and I think that turned me, kind of become a man through that process, just because of the lessons that I learned.
Cody, I heard a couple things. I heard 10 surgeries in 11 years. Yeah. I heard about a 5-game stretch where you're guarding legends, like we're Hall of Famers. But I also heard about the adjustment from college to the pros. Remember when I played, I had 2 surgeries, and I thought they were devastating, right? Broken leg, out for the season, and then a torn pec, out for the season. And then being on my own, like, how did you get through those hard times?
I think like I was saying, I had, I wanted to surround myself right when I first got to Charlotte with community, with godly men, with people, because I knew that adversity was going to come, whether it was playing time or surgeries, whatever it was. And I needed someone to lean on. And that's not just people, but that's also my faith. That's where my faith comes in as well. That I hope my life isn't just basketball. And as much as we love the game, basketball, football, it's hopefully not who we are as a person, And so I think each time I had a surgery or the game was taken away from me, I think it kind of helped me reset and be like, is this really what my life is built around? Basketball is eventually there's going to be another injury, or, retirement's going to come along. And how does my life look without basketball? So it kind of gave me a chance to reset. And I had one, I enjoyed telling the story, but my first, I got drafted, and my first week in Charlotte, I had an old coach to reach out to me, and he said, you should meet this guy in Charlotte. I think you guys have a lot in common. And so, but I had everyone who was like, hey, you should meet my second cousin down there. That's just what I want, is like another awkward lunch. And so I didn't do it. My first week, I was picking out an apartment. I was busy, getting settled in. And so then he texted me back, and he said, hey, have you two met up yet? And it was a group text between the two of us. And so I was like, hey, I finally texted him, hey, we should meet up for lunch. Coach Mo speaks highly of you. And so he said, I'll pick you up at your apartment at 2:00, bring your ping pong paddle. And I was like, oh boy, who is this guy? And we're in the middle of ping pong paddle. And so he picks me up, and he's he's become one of my closest friends. At the time, he was about 70, and his name is Bobby Jones. He's a Hall of Famer for the 76ers. He played with Dr. J. And an unbelievable Christian man. You would never know from meeting him that he's this legendary NBA player. But he would have me over about once a week for a home cooked meal. His wife is the sweetest Southern lady. I got to know his family. That's where I would spend a lot of times with my family. I'd be away from my family on the holidays, so I'd go over to his house. It really felt like I became a part of the family. And even I got married a year and a half ago, and I'm putting together my list of groomsmen and closest friends, and I was like, I got to have Bobby in the list. so I asked Bobby to be in my wedding, and I said, I got two questions for you. I said, one, will you be in my wedding? And for two, when was the last time that you were in a wedding? If that's what. And it had been, 55 years or something since you had been at a wedding. So, but my point in telling that story is that, man, I just pray that God would surround me with godly men and community, and he was exactly that. The first week I was there, from an old coach that I talked to occasionally, provided Bobby and his family for me, and it was great. It was incredible.
Cody, I wanted to go back to the Indiana Hoosiers just for a moment, and then obviously even into your NBA career. I want to know how you handled pressure, because, being in coaching the last few years, I feel like there's added pressure now in college athletics, specifically because of the NIL. And also, I think social media's presence has changed sports as well, because there's so much noise out there. Right or wrong, players are reading some of the stuff that's out there on social media, some of the comments that fans may make. So I want to kind of know how you handled that, both as a college player and also as an NBA player.
Yeah, man, we could have a whole podcast just about that question, that topic, because, man, it's changed a lot since I was in school, the NIL stuff. I think it's good that the players are getting paid. But, that's like when you're a pro when you get paid and you're held to a higher level and the expectations are higher. So that comes with the territory. Like those guys got to embrace, if you're getting a paycheck, you got to live up to it,
right.
And that's a whole nother weight to it. Apart from playing Indiana, the expectations are high, and it's, the expectations are to be one of the top teams in the country. And I think social media has gotten worse. Social media was around when I was in school, but I think it's gotten worse just because it's everywhere. It's you can't get away from it. And that would be my advice, is to get away from it, as much as you can, quiet the noise. And, there's times in my career and in my life where I can do that, but it's easier said than done, to get away from it, because, and I think there is a healthy, keep it at an arm's distance, because I think there is a healthy amount where you can let the fans in on your life and make it fun. But when it comes to your basketball performance, your sports performance, you just have to, for one, how do you deal with the pressure? For one, it's the preparation. It's the time with Clif Marshall in the weight room. It's the time with the coaches. It's getting extra shots. When the time comes in the court, when the lights are shining, you're leaning on your training. So I think that prepares you to step up in a big moment. Is the preparation that you put in beforehand when the doors are closed and the lights are off. But then, once the game's over and this settles down, there's always going to be haters. There's always going to be comments on social media. But really the only opinion that matters is your teammates, your coaches, your family, the people. I think the other thing, you got to have some people, like some truth tellers in your family, not just in sports, but in life too, that it's like, it's a lot of these guys get too many people around them that are just telling them how great they are. And, they've never made a mistake and they're perfect. And, but they get too much of that, and then they can't hear the real meat of it. Cause a lot of these college kids myself included, have a lot of room for growth, and they need to be challenged. And, a big reason why I had a successful career, I was fortunate because I had great coaches that were hard on me. And in high school, my high school coach held me to a high standard. college coach was hard on me. And then my first 5 years, man, I got cussed out every day. Even if it wasn't a game day, I was getting cussed out. I was getting cussed out at the scores table before I even went into the game. I was getting cussed out, but it was good for it. That's exactly what I needed. I had a lot of room for growth. I had to get better. So my point in saying that is that I look back at that and those guys were hard on me, but I needed that. I think kids now are like, they just want the easy stuff. They just want the gentle, soft messages. They just want to be patted on the back. But there's a time and place for both of those.
Well, to build on that, I think that the two things that I've seen with the athletes that I've worked with over the last decade probably is, the social media can really affect confidence and mental health. And it's crazy because after games, sometimes I would walk in the locker room within the first 5 minutes, I could see guys already on their phone, right? And they're looking at what social media is saying about their performance, whether it was a great performance or a bad performance. And, I really felt like that affected some athletes that I've worked with. This year, I actually did a social media fast. A lot of people fast from food and this, that or the other. And this year, I said, I'm going to do a social media fast in January and February. And so I'm the coach at Indiana basketball, right? And I challenged our players, to do this social media fast with me. And I think we ended up having 4 players that accepted that challenge with me. Unfortunately, all 4 of them were walk-on. It didn't serve its purpose, so to speak. But I think one of the things that I talk about a lot with the athletes that I work with, and I know you guys have both heard it as well, it's playing for the audience of one. And Cody, you mentioned it, you got to play for your teammates, for your family, and for those closest to you. But I think playing for the audience of one, which is God, really helps that mindset. I'd have a player every year that I was at Indiana that would come to me and ask me for prayer before the game. And this year that player was Trey Galloway. And when he asked me to pray for him, that's always what I would mention in our pregame prayer, that we would play for the audience of one. And Sam, I know you've played at the highest level as well. Maybe you can chime in a little bit on how you handled that pressure, because Texas football and Indiana basketball, there is a high level of pressure in both of those schools.
Yeah, well, I'll go first. Yeah. Cody, we came out right around the same time, right? Like 2010, 2011. And I remember even being in college at a place like Texas, right? Like a blue blood program, a place like Texas, Indiana basketball. You walk on campus and it's like, boom, all eyes on you. Yeah. And mind you, I'm about 6'2", 6'3". I ain't 7 feet tall. So it's like, I remember being a freshman at Texas, going in early in summer. I don't know if y'all did. Cody, did y'all do summer like when you graduate, just boom? So same thing, right? I graduated like May 25th, and by May 30th, I'm on campus. I'm in the program. Like, we're getting after it. And no one else was on campus in the summer. It was just the football players. So we just did our thing. We grinded for about, 3 months. And then the season was going to start. So all the students came back, and just this idea of the pressure. I remember our quarterback at the time was a player by the name of Colt McCoy. And Colt and I had become friends, right? Colt was a follower of Jesus. Colt was a good dude. We just stayed close. And I remember being on campus, and mind you, summer, there's no one there. All of a sudden, 50,000 people, boom. And I'm walking to class and I see Colt. And I just say, hey, Colt, hey, what's up, Colt? Just thinking I'm seeing my friend. The entire place turned. It was like, Colt McCoy. Like, there's so much pressure. Yeah. And so for me, it was this reminder of, okay, God, if I do this for the applause of people, like, how am I going to succeed? You talk about Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, David West. Like, I was just trying to guard Jamal Charles in practice. Like, I was just trying to figure. I was like, how do I do this? And so it was just this idea of, okay, what are the little steps I can take to try and get better? And then understanding that, okay, even if it's just one step at a time or one practice at a time. I was getting Will Muschamp was our coach. He was banging clipboards and cussing us out every day. But it was this deal of, okay, God, how do I do this for you? How do I make sure that when I play, yes, I've prepared and I've given it my all, but I want people to glorify God through my play. And so that was my experience, especially collegiately. Cody, how was it for you?
Yeah, similar. My mom used to joke that she could, like, I'd talk to her at the end of the day, and she could get on Twitter, and she could see how my day went. She could be like, "Hey, I'm sitting behind Cody at his 8 a.m. class, and I'm standing behind Cody at Subway at lunch." And she'd be like, "What'd you get at Best Buy?" I was, walk around Best Buy killing time. So she could follow my day just by getting on Twitter and searching my name. So to your point, like everywhere you went, it probably kept me out of trouble. And not that I'd be in trouble much anyway, but I think it was like there's pros and cons to it. But I think, and then you talk about playing for an audience of one. I think my college coach used to challenge me of Luke 12:48 says, "Too much is given, much required," and he would use that as like a motivational. As in, like, I'm 7 feet tall. I was blessed with athletic ability. If I don't squeeze every ounce of my potential out of it, I'm doing a disservice to the Lord that's given me this. So, and I use that now, even with, my time, my resources, whatever else that you can give. But even before I took the court, I was always, I wouldn't necessarily pray for a double or a win or a loss. I would always just pray that God would give me the energy that somebody out there would notice me as something more than a basketball player. Just the way that I carry myself, the way that I treated the refs, the way that I dealt on the floor, with the way that I, cheered on my teammates. Just as somebody, whether it was on social media, watching on TV, or in the crowd, would notice me as something more than just a basketball player. It's a man of faith, that there's something different about me, and it's that I'm filled with the Holy Spirit, and when I played joyfully, I hope I lived joyfully, and that's all because of the Lord.
Cody, I want to go back to the injuries. I could not imagine that many injuries that often, yet you still come back and play. What was going through your mind after, I don't know, the second or the third time your nose broke, right? You know what I mean? Like, what was going through your mind when it's like another knee? Like, what were you feeling? What were you experiencing during those times?
Yeah, I've talked to a couple other NFL guys. They call it the T train, Toradol. I know they're T train.
You're right.
Later on in my career, but no, I think it's just we also had, like, it was just a new challenge each time, and I had an injury, and I was fortunate not to have any big, like, knock on wood, no ACL or, a ruptured Achilles tendon or any of those. So a lot of, like, broken bones, like plates and screws in my hands. My nose, like, I was back in, 10 days after the one broken nose. Like, I just wear the mask, and, of the 10 surgeries, people ask me, like, which one was the worst? Honestly, I had, the 10 surgery. I think the worst was a broken rib. I got, it was on a 2-on-1 break, and I was the one defender back, and they left it back for Joel Embiid, and he went up to lay it in, and he kneed me right in the rib. And so I had this cracked rib, and there's nothing you can do about a cracked rib. So I missed one game for it, and they put like it was like a quarterback flak jacket almost on me. Just so I could play through it, which I don't know if that's legal to play with that in the game, but I was like, we're going to ask for forgiveness, not permission. But each one was like, it's just the next challenge that came on. It was like, I wanted to be out there for my teammates. I wanted to play. So whether that meant, taking a few weeks off to recover, or, hitting my recovery hard, I just wanted to get right out there for my teammates. So, yeah, I learned too about playing through some adversity, playing through some pain. But even now, I'm like, man, I can get through anything in life now. Well, this is easy now, So anyway.
So I got a real question, maybe even a debate. Cody, you played a decade in the NBA. Sam, you played nearly a decade in the NFL. Which sport more hard on the body when it comes to injuries, I'm saying?
Football for sure.
Well, see, I was going to say football too. Well, you're interviewing a guy who has 10 surgeries. Right. You know what I mean? Like, we have this argument, though. We have this argument about, like, who are better athletes, Like Cody, people ask who's a better athlete, football, basketball. I don't know if they want to throw in baseball or golf, but what do you say? Who are the best athletes in sports?
Football is more specific to like your position. So like you guys are good at one thing. You're offensive lineman, you block, or quarterback is more like you got to read the game more, but the other guys are more specific. But in the NBA, I think that's the one thing campaign I would have for the NBA is you got to be able to do it all. You got to be able to shoot. You got to be able to move your feet. You got to be able to defend. But as far as like, man, you're like the athletic ability, the size of NFL guys is like, man, you can have a Kevin Durant has no bulk, no muscle. Now, I think you do have to have some height. If you're 5'10", there's not much room for you in the NBA, So it's something that you just have to be, a little God-given ability, God-given size. But I enjoy having the same debate of we also I have a couple of buddies that have played in the NFL as well, and enjoy the debate of which one would be easier to transition. Like, would there be NBA players that would be able to play in the NFL or vice versa? So anyway, I don't know what you say.
I think it's easier for NFL guys to go play basketball, right? Y'all shoot a little bit, y'all run around, but imagine the bulk, right? The physical beating. And now I'm kind of going on my soapbox for football, right? Your physical beating every single day in practice, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, you're a receiver, you're running across the middle, boom, you get hit by a safety. I would argue it'd be easier to make the transition. Now, skill-wise, to your point, basketball. There's so much technical skill involved, I would argue, for basketball, but I think just there has to be a mentality for that physicality of football. But what do you think?
No, I'm with you. I think if it's a specific player like an Anthony Edwards that already has the bulk, or like I don't know who, Westbrook, like in his prime with his explosiveness, like someone like him might be able to make a transition, but it's still going to take him some minutes to learn the technique and all that. And you'd have to find a position for him. The skill in the NBA is very specific. If you haven't been doing it your whole life, your whole career, it's a little different. But one of the other guys said the difference in the NFL is whether you can be hit. Like at the end of the day, can you be hit? Because that's a different mentality. Because it's not just the physical side of football, but being hit on every play, these guys are wired different. You're wired different.
Yeah. No, but to your point, for me, it was a joy. Like and it sounds weird. I know maybe I'm wired different, but like I have a 10-year-old and he plays football and basketball and, baseball, things like that. And I asked him, hey, what's your favorite sport? And he said it was football. And I said, why? He said, because I get a chance to hit people and like not get in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, that was kind of my mentality when I played football. Is this idea of the physicality. But one thing I wanted to know, Cody, is, okay, I understand the physicality of football, but the culture, right? Like, what was the culture like in the NBA? 82 games, like what is the culture in the locker room?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot smaller locker room than the NFL, so you get closer to your teammates. But, I'm sure you played with different teams as well. I was a part of some good cultures. I was part of some bad cultures. And a lot of times it only takes one guy to mess up the whole bunch. But even just like some cool relationships I was be able to build on the plane and in the locker room. And that's the really fun part of the play. Like, of course, playing in the games is fun, and winning on the road and like playing in the playoffs, that's all fun. But also, like, being in the locker room, being with your guys and doing all that is a lot of fun. I will say in college, those guys are still my closest friends. Those are the guys that were in my wedding and still my closest friends. And in the NBA, it's a little more like coworkers. Like, you're just like, my first year, there was, I'm 20 and there's a guy that's, 39 on our team. So like the range is like different points in their lives. Some guys, family men, some guys going out each night on the road, but and it's just in general, sports in general, the locker room, like we'd have the one year we had like 6 different languages in our locker room, like different guys from different countries, different guys grew up in different backgrounds. Some guys grew up rough, some guys grew up wealthy. It's just like, but you all come together and for one common goal, just to play sports. You want to win. You want to win the game. You want the season to go well. So I think that's the beautiful thing about sport, just brings people together through different backgrounds.
Cody, I wanted to talk quickly. Last time I saw you, we were in Seattle, Washington. The Indiana Hoosiers were there to play the Washington Huskies. You were there, however, on a different occasion. Your bride, your wife, was out there doing a concert, and you guys were actually on tour. So I think first and foremost, can you talk a little bit about your marriage and kind of how you guys got to the point where you're at now, and then also about your wife's career as a Christian music artist?
Yeah, we met in 2018, 2019, and I was there to see a friend that was playing a show. He's a musician, and we just were talking, and I said I wasn't dating anyone. He said, you should meet the girl who's opening for me. And so I met Leanna, is her name, and we kind of went our separate ways. She was, I joked, she was dating someone else at the time, so I had to get in line. But then during COVID, things were kind of shut down. She wasn't playing as many shows, and there was a church in Charlotte that hired her to come in for a week. So we kind of reconnected when she came to Charlotte, and we started dating long distance. And we got married a year and a half ago. And like I said, she's a singer, a songwriter, and she's signed a label and she tours. Last week, she had the #1 song on the Christian charts, Still Waters. Psalm 23 is the name of the song. So she's really hit her stride, especially this her most recent album. And I'm calling from Nashville. We got a place in Nashville maybe 6 months ago, and we're kind of settling in here in Nashville. But for her music career, this is a spot to be for, writing and touring and doing all that. So yeah, it's fun to kind of follow her on some of her shows. Like you said, we were out in Washington. She played a few shows. So I don't quite fit on the bunk on the on the bus as well. So I'm not hitting every stop, but I do enjoy going out to see her and supporting her in that way. So she's on a busy time right now. She's been gone for about a week, and then she'll be home for 48 hours and then back out for another week. So it kind of comes in waves. But yeah, marriage has been incredible. A year and a half being married, and it's just fun to spend every day with my best friend and wake up together and do all that. So it's she's special. I was lucky to find her.
Well, it's so good. You're talking about the stops. I want to take a quick stop because you said, okay, yeah, we met in 2018, 2019, then COVID, then we got married. Look, what happened? Give us the juice, man. Give how did you propose? What was it like? I mean, you had to wait in line, but okay, how'd you get to the front of the line? How did you and Leanna get connected?
That's a good. Man, we could talk all day. I didn't know how in depth we could. We still got a lot to talk about.
We
football.
Talk faith, we talk family. We're gonna get to football, Indiana. I want to hear what you think about Indiana's future. But man, we care a lot about family on this podcast. Yeah. That's the whole point of us putting together: faith, family, finances. Yes, football / basketball / sports. But man, you lit up when you started talking about her. Let's take a pit stop. Let's hear a little bit more.
Yeah. So so like you said, we met that first kind of reconnected that first week that she was in Charlotte. And it went really well. It was I saw her the first day, and then I was like, yeah, I might go back out the second day. And then I was there the whole week. But I was a little bit like, man, I don't know if this is going to work because she's in Nashville, I'm in Charlotte, in the back of my mind. And the day before she left, she said, because of COVID, there was a church just outside of Charlotte that had hired her as kind of a consultant. I think they had bought a new sound system, but their worship team needed a little help. And so they had hired Leanna as a consultant, and she said, I'm going to be flying in twice a month for the next, 5 or 6 months. And so that kind of gave us a chance to she was flying in, she'd fly in she'd have Sunday church. So she'd fly in Sunday night, and then she'd fly the next week. She'd fly in Friday night, and then she'd fly Thursday night. Her stays got a little longer, as we continued to talk. But that kind of gave us a chance to get to know each other. And then, I was in Charlotte, she was in Nashville, and then I was in Portland, and we kind of did the long distance thing. And then we got married, and I haven't played with anyone this year, but being in New Orleans last year was fun because we got married and then was able to go to New Orleans and live together for the first time. And it's a new city for us to explore. But yeah, as far as her, it was just, we got married when I was 29, 30. So, I mean, I spent a lot of my years of like, man, who does God have for me? And I had dated on and off, but I was like, man, who does God have for me? And I continued to kind of work on myself. And I wanted to, when the right girl came along, I wanted to make sure that I had my stuff in line. And I was, but man, when I just continued to pray for her, whoever it was, I continued to pray for my wife. And for anyone who hasn't found their wife, hasn't found that person, that was the best advice that I got, was just to continue to pray for my wife before I even met her. And when she came into my life, I knew quickly that she was the one. I get a little slack still that, we dated for like 2.5 years. And I think I was like spooked into, because especially in our, like in the NBA culture of like, you see so many divorces and like the whole deal. And it's a lot of marriages that aren't healthy, and people telling me marriage is hard and yeah, it takes work. But I think I knew quickly, but I think it took me 2.5 years to propose and, move it along. And it's like I said, I hear about that every once in a while from my wife, because she was ready and I was ready, but I was like, man, she's too perfect. I know this is the one, but man, everyone's telling me that marriage is hard and everyone's telling me that. So I think that's my next piece of advice to anyone listening is, man, to go for it. It's wonderful when marriage is so wonderful and so fun. And when it's how God designed it. It's for man and woman to be together and lean on each other in tough times and celebrate good times. And during our marriage counseling, the guy who married us said, I'll give we had gone through the whole marriage prep and marriage counseling leading up to the wedding. And he said, I'll give the blessing on this marriage. You guys will have a happy, long marriage. He said, my last question is, will the kingdom of the Lord be impacted more with you guys individually or you guys as a couple? And if the answer is that the kingdom will be grown and impacted bigger with you two being married, then I absolutely give my blessing on this marriage. And that was a good challenge for us. And I think we absolutely check that box now because, she continues to energize me. And, even like I said, she's on tour in the past week and hopefully she comes home for 48 hours and I can energize her just for, whatever it is, whether I can cook her home cooked meal. I'm not very good at cooking. I can't promise it's going to be good, but even if I can give her something to kind of get her refreshed and get her back on her feet so she can go out and sing her songs and impact the Lord through her music, because that checks the box. So anyway, it's I could talk all day about my wife, and like I said, when it's done right, when it's focused on the Lord, and I hope our marriage is it's a wonderful thing.
I got one more quick one about your wife before Clif has another one. What's the best thing about Leanna?
The best thing about her, I think her joy. I think she's so joyful. Whatever she does, we laugh a lot together. We have a lot of, and she puts a smile on my face each day. But even just in her career, I think people, if you guys met her the first time you guys met her, she just lights up a room with just her joy. She's got a lot of energy. She's got, so whether it's in her career, whether it's first time meeting her, whether it's a stranger at Starbucks, she's always got a smile on her face, and hopefully she's very joyful.
Cody, that's great stuff. Every podcast I do with Sam, I try to leave our audience with a Clif note. And today's Clif note is this. I have learned this, that a successful marriage doesn't take two people, it takes three people. The husband, the wife, and God at the center of it all. And that's what I respect so much about you and the way you're leading your marriage. And Sam, the same with you. Both you guys are pro athletes, right? You have a huge platform. There's a lot of temptation, a lot of things that can pull you in different directions.
but you guys have committed to your marriage, committed to your wife. And obviously that takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength. And the fact that you guys have done it both in the NFL and now obviously Cody in the NBA, much respect to both of you guys. And man, I hope this message today about marriage will bless some of our audience.
That's awesome. I think you guys might have heard this analogy before, but that it's a triangle. God is at the top of the triangle, and then I'm at one corner, and my wife Leanna is at the other corner. Mm-hmm. And as we get closer to God, as me individually, as I worship and as I read my word, and as I get closer to God, and as Leanna gets closer to God individually, because it's an individual relationship that we should each have with the Lord, we get closer to each other as well. So as we pursue God, we're getting closer to each other in our marriage and our growth. And I think that's really true. If we're busy and we're on the road and we're individually, if I'm, get away from the word and I'm not in church and I'm not doing this, you feel more distance from your wife. So I think that was the analogy that I saw, was that it's a triangle, and like you said, it's three. It's three involved in it. Hopefully, like I said, we try to pray. We pray each night together, but a lot of times we pray for that our marriage is centered on Christ first, and that everything else takes care of itself.
That's so good. Yeah, we talk. Clif has the Clif note, which I love. We love. But also talk about, man, how do you win without losing it all? And what I've heard is when it comes to marriage, when it comes to family, when it comes to faith, finances, football, basketball, it sounds like it's like, okay, how do I keep my eyes fixed on Christ? That's what I've heard. But I want to ask you, Cody, NBA, marriage, Mr. Indiana basketball, 11 years, 10 surgeries. How do you win without losing it all?
That's a good question. I'm unpacking that one. How do you win without losing it all? I think that it's, like you said, I've been so blessed with a long career and a wonderful wife, and life is good. And but I think just find the little things in life too. Not to, continue to talk all about my wife and talk about her songs, but she has one. You guys will have to look up her music, but she has one that she talks about. She was inspired by like these fireflies and these lightning bugs, and it's all about how can you not see God? And she talks about seeing a field full of lightning bugs, these fireflies light up, and it's just like this little thing that we might walk right past, or that might go through your everyday thing. But to see those lightning bugs, and who knows what they're for, but for some reason, like the littlest thing, a little lightning bug that just looks cool, that how big is our God that he cares about these little light up bugs? And, regardless of what's going on in our life, good or bad, just to know that we have a faith, we have a big God, and he hears our prayers. And so, yeah, I think just the little things in life that really matter. Kind of gives you a little reset that it's like, regardless of what's going on in life is pretty good when you got the Lord on your side.
Great word, Cody. My last question for you today is this: where is Cody Zeller 10 years from now?
Oh, good question. Good question.
On a bigger tour bus? Gotta get a bigger bus bed.
Right.
That's a good question. That's what I'm asking myself right now, because it's, my career's winding down and trying to figure out what's next. And, my wife and I are excited about starting a family someday, probably sooner than later, but hopefully 10 years from now, we got a few kids, and I don't know where we'll be living or what, life will look like with our career, my career, her career. I know we'll have each other, and hopefully we have a few kids, and I can just be the cool dad. And so I don't know what's next for me after my basketball career, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see from there. Maybe I'll start podcasting like you guys.
There you go. You come on.
My brothers and I have talked about doing a little podcast together, because 3 NBA players, but I'm kind of with you. I'm like, we've done a couple of test ones where we're like, we don't even know what it looks like to, talk or how long or what questions to ask, anything else. But so we're dipping our toe in the water there. So anyway, we're trying to figure it out.
Well, one encouragement I have for you, well, 2 things. Number one, for the podcast, I know a guy, right? But also, you've been married for a year and a half. And I remember, by the grace of God, I'm going on year 11. Clif's going on 20 something.
Right at 20. Right at 20.
Right at 20. And people told you with marriage, oh, you should wait and all these things. Like, they told me the same thing. Told me the same thing even with kids. Dude, there's no greater joy. Like, there is no greater joy. I've been married, by the grace of God, 11 years now. We got 4 kids. I remember being at the beginning and like praying for kids. I wanted to be a husband and like, God, who's going to be that person for me when I'm looking, like a similar story. Yeah. And like, God provided my wife Ngazi, and then all of a sudden, and I prayed for her and the whole thing. And now, like, I got, my 6-year-old was like low-key almost on this podcast. Like, Daddy, I can hear him. Like, dude, turn that phone off. Like, he's talking. You know what I mean? And then it's like, and then I got we have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 2-year-old. And dude, there's no greater joy. And so if my encouragement to you is, if y'all are ready, go for it, man. Like, don't let people tell you, well, enjoy your wife. And like, dude, y'all can enjoy it and be parents as well. And so that's my quick encouragement. We love, and like, we on this podcast, right? We talk faith, family, football, finance. Well, we go first, we give space, we grow hope, right? So Clif is God first in so many ways, right? He's modeled it, right? In the sports arena, maybe in this area, I've God first, right? I retired from the NFL maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so it's like, and maybe in the podcasting deal, I'm telling you, man, 3 brothers in the NBA, like all that, like there's so much that you all have to provide to the world, right? And so if I could just encourage you in that way, like, go for it, man. If you need some connects, Clif and I got people, whatever you need, right? So I appreciate you, Cody.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we're the cool aunt and uncle right now, which is, we're both looking forward to having kids, but we're having that same conversation. Like, man, it's so fun to be married, just the 2 of us, and have the flexibility to travel when we want. She, like I said, she's doing her career and she's on the road a lot, but at the same time, both of us are just excited to have kids and take on the next challenge. But I enjoy, both of us enjoy. I feel like it's like being a rookie in the locker room. Like, you got to learn from your vets. So you 2 are my vets. We got to learn on parenting and being a dad. So we'll have to have a follow-up conversation, to continue that. So anyway, yeah, it's exciting, but I enjoy, I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
Awesome. The last one before we let you go, we said we're going to talk about football. So I got to get your college football or NFL. What is your, I don't know, what did you see this last season that impressed you the most, whether it was college or NFL or anything you're thinking of?
Yeah, I enjoyed, obviously the Hoosiers had a great year. So that was really fun to watch. I think that, like we said, the NIL and the transfer thing is just fascinating to see. You had like the UNLV quarterback that went 4-0 to start the year and then just said, nope, I'm done. I'm going to cash in.
Yes.
Here, like I said, we're in Nashville, so there's a lot of Tennessee fans around here. So the quarterback that said, no, I want, whatever the number was, there's rumors it was $2.5 million. I want $4 million. And coach is like, nope, this is not the NFL. There's no contracts, which I think there needs to be a little more structure to, the transfer rule and the contracts, because right now it's just like everyone keeps saying the Wild Wild West, but I actually give a lot of respect to the Tennessee coach for just saying, no, you're done. We'll find someone else. And because that's, again, putting the program ahead of one player, and that sets the culture. We talked a little bit about culture for the whole program. So it's really fascinating to see how each team is, for one, building their roster, but how NIL and transfer has changed things. You saw like the Michigan quarterback Underwood, that you just get a couple donors, you're like, man, we'll write you a blank check. Let's just get the best talent. So anyway, it's fun to see. Like I said, I enjoy all sports, but college football especially. Even like I said, I enjoy going to games and being. Texas is on my bucket list.
Let's go.
But I went to Tennessee, Alabama at Tennessee this past year with my dad, and it was a blast. It was a lot of fun, crazy atmosphere, It was perfect weather. It was Tennessee won. They carried the goalposts out, threw it in the river. But there's just something special about like the tradition of each school, the atmospheres, and like I said, basketball has the same of like, man, playing in Assembly Hall is like is the crowd noise and the student section and everything else. But there's something fun about football as well. So Texas is definitely on my list, so we got to get down there.
I'll tell you, man, we got to figure out who, and now Texas in the SEC too. So the whole, there's opportunity. Well, Cody, we appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on the Sam Acho podcast featuring Clif Marshall. And dude, we're excited for you, for your marriage, for your future, for Cody in 10 years from now, for your wife and her music, Still Waters. You talked about it, #1 on the charts, which is unbelievable. So thank you so much for everyone listening. Thank you for tuning into the Sam Acho podcast. Go to samacho.com to get this episode and every other episode. We'll see you soon.